Hey there, this is Dirk with DMP Home Inspection, and this is your mentor moment. A big thank you to all of you for tuning in, and a big thank you for InterNACHI for supporting this podcast and helping us reach other inspectors, entrepreneurs, and small business owners. I'm glad you're here. Welcome back to the show. Today we are diving into the world of networking, which honestly I totally believe this is the secret to success in business. With someone who truly, really, truly, positively knows her stuff. This is Faithann. She's one of my fellow partners in Business Networking International and the founder of the Networkers Tour Guide in Oklahoma. Say hello.
Hello, Dirk. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, thank you for having me on your podcast too. And so that's the other thing. She hosts her own podcast where she actually just shares tons of insight, practical tips, and how to build real lasting connections through networking. Do you want to add anything in there?
That's a great description. Networking is providing opportunities for others that they would not have except for you, so that you can ask for opportunities for yourself. So that's what I talk about.
Oh, I think we're definitely going to be in for a treat today. Honestly, I don't have a whole list of questions for you today, but what do most people miss in their networking for their business? And we're going to keep things kind of loose here. And Faith Ann, why don't you just lead us through this whole experience?
Sure. So, a lot of times, walking into a room full of business owners to talk about your business, walking into that room full of people you don't know can be so intimidating and scary. And we all really never grow out of that eighth grader with his lunch tray in the cafeteria, his milk and his hot dogs and his tater tots, standing there looking around and hoping and praying that somebody invites him to their table. So, what I have learned to do through networking on behalf of my residential and commercial window cleaning business for many years is grow my business through true networking, and I've learned how to flip the script on it. So, imagine that you are a tourist and you go to your travel agent and you say, I would love to travel to Japan. And your travel agent says, great, and makes all the arrangements. And right before you walk out the door, the travel agent says, oh, one more thing. When you get back, there'll be a quiz on how well you vacationed. Well, you would probably say, well, thanks, but no thanks. I'll just go find another travel agent. So, if we could look at walking into that room full of business owners that we don't know as we are the tourist, we're the one deciding what we like and what we don't like. What that will do is relax us and it shrinks our amygdala, which is the part of the brain that tells us that we're in danger because something new is happening. And we can walk in relaxed, and this does take practice. But if we take all the performative aspects away from networking and we set realistic expectations as to what we're there to do, which is build relationships, and think like a tourist, we're there to decide what we like and what we don't like. And let's be curious and interested in people instead of this performative thinking where I must walk away from this meeting with 3 business cards, or I must walk out of here with 2 prospects, or I must walk out of here with 1 sale. Then we can start to relax a little bit and we can start becoming more curious because we don't have all that pressure to make something happen that day. What we want to make happen is our curiosity needs to guide us, and we need to learn to ask good questions of others, not put on a performance about ourselves and try to convince people that we are the bee's knees when it comes to home inspection, for example. If I were a home inspector, what I would be doing if I'm walking into a networking group, a meeting, is I would be looking for groups of people who are open and welcoming and friendly, who I can step into their conversation. I would be asking really fun questions like, tell me what most people get wrong about real estate. For instance, if I was talking to a real estate agent, I would not be standing there trying my hardest is to convince that real estate agent to take my card and to give me a call tomorrow for a job. All of that is down the road when we build that rapport.
It's all about relationship. That's really what you're talking about, and understanding that you're not the person in charge. You want to be just kind of a tour guide, or a tourist,
Mhm.
tour
A
guide,
tourist,
a tourist, and actually just kind of play the water, kind of like when you're house hunting.
right? Yeah, and what makes vacations for us fun is that there's no grade at the end. But what happens is we put a grade on our networking in the beginning that doesn't need to be there. We need to be comfortable. That would be the most important thing is we need to be comfortable and we need to be curious. So we need to ask good questions. And Dirk, I would say another thing that I would strongly encourage your home inspector audience to do is start to understand what a good client for them is. And let's not assume that people know what we do. Others know a shadow of what we do. We know what we do. They only know a shadow, so they need a lot of education. So we want to be thinking about how would we describe our ideal client. And then another real fun thing to know is, and I talk about this on my podcast episode, I believe it's episode 31 or 36, but if someone asks you, how can I support you right now? Have an answer. Yeah, that can be a little bit of an off, like, what? Because, we're not used to people asking us that. Have an answer. Like, have your go-to answer. And it can change, but have the answer prepared and thank the person for asking and then tell them how they can support you. And it may not always be a job, but it might be an introduction to some other key person in your industry. It might be a key introduction to that roofer or a key introduction to a pest person or a mold remediation or the many industries that work together to make houses ready to sell.
Oh, totally agree with that. It's funny you're asking that question, and I thought to myself, if someone comes up to me and asks me that specific question, what I normally do is I turn to them and say, "We need to get a selfie together and put it on Facebook." And that automatically like helps them like, "Oh my gosh, this guy isn't about, trying to sell me business. He's actually here to help me grow too." And it's like you just kind of wrap your arms around each other, do a selfie, then you post it on Facebook, and people are like, "Oh, wow, this is cool." So we try to do that, like even in our networking group, is we take a selfie at the beginning of our networking and then post it on Facebook. It's just
Yeah,
something so small could lead into something so big. And
exactly.
you're you're like saying, I want to smooth that out for you so that you don't have to be timid and scared to go into. See, for sales, for me, sales is easy, but for other people, it's not. It's really, you're selling yourself when you're out there networking, and you gotta dress the part and play the part and do it to a profession, but also have fun with it is kind of what I'm hearing.
Yeah. Yeah. Taking a selfie is, it loosens people up and we all want exposure. So if you're offering your platform for exposure, that was one of the things that tripped me up early in my networking. I would get a little stressed out because window cleaning, for Window Cleaning Plus, we wanted relationships with realtors. And then I would the more realtors I started to meet, I got stressed out because I was like, if I ever want to sell my house, how in the world am I going to pick the realtor? But the longer I've been in networking, the more I'm understanding that we support each other in many other ways besides the direct sale, the direct contract, the direct closed business. The money leaves my wallet and enters yours. So when we can share our connections with each other, when we can expose those new business owners, those other business owners, we're essentially saying, hey, he's part of my group. So if you like me, by way of me, you'll probably like Dirk. and others like him. So that's a way we can support each other is making strategic introductions, being on Facebook together, because there is a little bit of social proof when we have pictures together, and you're letting your audience see that person for the first time.
Right. And like when I go visit other chapters, a lot of times there's another home inspector there. And it's funny because like I'll stand up and I'll do my presentation because sometimes they'll let you, they're not supposed to, but sometimes they do. Hey, Dirk, you want to stand up? And I'll say, yeah, I'm Dirk with DMP Home Inspection. You already have a great home inspector here, but if you need a one-to-one, I would love to have a one-to-one with you. And I sit back down because I recognize that seat has been taken and I want to give them the opportunity to do what they need to do in their chapter or whatever. And I went to a real estate agent place where they're doing a luncheon or something, and there was two other home inspectors there. And the one inspector, he's never inspected really houses, and so I got down with him and I talked to him a little bit, and I said, "Hey, look, I've been doing this for a while. I can help you." And he's like, "What?" I never expected that. And I'm like, hey, well, let's get together. Let's go have some something to eat and we'll talk about it. So him and I actually went out and he's one of the people that I mentor now. And that relationship would never have happened if I would have been scared or he would have been scared.
Right. When we're scared, we are untactful, is if that's even a word. We're the opposite of tact. And I hear stories. I hear stories of people telling me, yeah, I went to this networking group that's industry exclusive, and the so and so person walked right up to me and said, well, you can be here as long as you don't try and take business away from me. It's just so silly to jump to that conclusion when we're all here to win. And what I like to do is, and it's funny because my son was just having this, I was having this conversation with my son recently about somebody that he might be interested in. And he's like, but I want to know this one thing about this person, but how do I bring it up? And I said, what you do is you build a rapport and you start talking to this person and you watch as a flower unfolds, opens up. So, what we want is people to be comfortable revealing. We don't want to be tactless and just act fearful and say, you better not. Rah, 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 rah. We want to build rapport. And if you want to find out anything about anybody, just talk to them long enough and be really curious, and they will reveal. And often you have assumed a threat that's not there. You have assumed a threat that is not there. I have lunches with other window cleaners in my area frequently because I don't see it as a threat. I see it as an opportunity.
Oh, I totally agree with you. I just got a phone call yesterday and this house went under contract and they said, do you go in this area? And I said, I really can't right now because I actually have to watch my kids. And I was just being honest with her. I said, I have another home inspector that can do that area. So I called, I got them two connected. Well, unfortunately, he can't do it in the time frame either, but he has another inspector. So we actually networked three inspectors to get this house done. And it's just, that's the power of having uh, collaboration. And
Right.
it's great. I love it. We have an electrician that actually meets with other electricians around the area too, and they collaborate on certain jobs and everything else. Why not?
Right. Because we want to come from abundance, not scarcity. And that's the other thing. If I had to pick two things, I would say go in like a tourist. There's no grade at the end. And the second thing is come into networking with abundance, not scarcity, because the only thing scarcity is going to make you do is appear slimy and fearful, which when we're afraid, we make others uncomfortable. It's not that we are all mean at heart. It's that if you're afraid, now what if that rubs off on me? Like I don't want to be around you if you're afraid, and if you're exuding this fear, then I don't want to be around you because I don't want to catch it. So when we exude competence, confidence, and caring, that's the winning combination. Um, so so in order to get to that point, what you need to do is relax and come with an abundance mentality, not a scarcity.
I totally agree with you. And that was something that even my dad like instilled on us is that, he owned a grocery store and there was three other grocery stores in town and he never really cared about what he cared about what they were doing, but he never like, oh my gosh, I need to do this because they're doing that. Well, no, not really, because you make yourself known because of who you are, not because of what you carry.
Right. And my networking mentor, she says they don't buy from your company, they buy from you. And this is very evident. I have learned this through, again, this years of networking on behalf of Window Cleaning Plus. So there'll be a Facebook post and it'll say, I'm looking for a residential window cleaner. And my friends and my network partners will say, oh, you've got to talk to Faithann. They don't say, call Window Cleaning Plus. They say, you got to talk to Faithann, Faithann, Faithann. It's person after person after person tagging me. And that tells me something. I've built relationships, and that's what we want to do when we network. We want to build relationships, we want to build other people up. We want to be curious about other people, and we want to try and help other people. And that will in turn play out in a positive way.
I totally agree with you 100%. A lot of times the same thing happens on our end too, and it's like, oh, you need to talk to Dirk. They don't say DNP home inspection, they say, hey, you got to talk to Dirk. And sometimes the sale doesn't go the way I want it to, and that's okay. I want to get them to the place where they feel comfortable. And it doesn't matter if I get it or some other home inspector company gets it. To me, it's a win-win. As long as I can start building a relationship. Uh, and so I'm gonna ask you about, so you have a product out there that helps people with networking. You want to explain that just a little bit for our audience?
Sure. Thank you for for the opportunity. So when I've been networking, what I notice people struggle with is this is what I hear so often at networking meetings. I hear the roofer say, I'm looking for anybody with a roof. And the skincare product representatives say, I can help anybody with skin and etc. So I understand that when you are actually standing up and giving your presentation, you need to be specific. You need to tell the room, the others in the room, specifically who you're looking for. What are the people doing or saying? How will I know if I'm standing in the middle of a referral? How are those people going to know? Because they don't know what you do, they know a shadow of what you do. So I've developed, it's called Referrals in 60 Seconds, and it's a guidebook to help you write a presentation from start to finish.
Yeah, you only have a few seconds to win somebody's heart. That's it.
Mhm.
And you never get a second chance to win a first impression. I totally
Right.
agree with you. Any closing thoughts that you have?
Um, well, I think a closing thought would be patient and be curious. Be patient and curious and get into this habit of helping others and get into this habit of thinking that there are plenty of opportunities for you. You don't need to be afraid. There are plenty of opportunities. And the longer that you start networking, the easier it will become. And the more people are going to start to know you and trust you.
That is awesome. And where can people find your podcast? And I am on one of those podcasts, number
You are.
43, I believe. Is that right?
That's
Um,
right.
I actually listened to it and I was like, man, I got to listen to that again. Uh, take my own advice.
You're right. That was a great conversation. Yeah, I'm on Spotify. I mean, you can find the Networkers Tour Guide podcast wherever you find your favorite podcasting apps, wherever you listen to your podcasts. And it's Networkers Tour Guide. So it's not the Networkers Tour Guide, and there's no apostrophe. So if you just type in Networkers Tour Guide, it should come up. And then my website is thenetworkerstourguide.net. And that's where you can find that referrals in 60 seconds. And then I do have a free private Facebook group. It's also called the Networkers Tour Guide. And I go live in there every Friday at 5 p.m. Central Time and give networking tips and tricks.
That is awesome. Well, we are definitely out of time here. So until next time, inspect what you expect, serve before you sell, and always keep growing and moving forward. Thanks for tuning in. And don't forget to like and subscribe to our podcast.